Okay, so download your lesson 2 files. They should be in a zip like this. If you're on a PC, just right click on it and extract it. The Mac has the same function, just have to extract it. What it'll do, it will make a new folder, and lesson 2 is right there. And you have 2 files inside there. Now, my files are associated with Adobe Bridge, which I want you to do eventually too. But so now is a good time. So just right click on one of the photos. On a PC, go to Properties. On a Mac, go to File Info, and you need to associate the JPEGs with Bridge. So I'm going to just under Type of File, click Change, select Bridge, and set it as your default, and then hit Apply. Now then every JPEG will open up in Bridge. So, but before we're going to do that, I want to also clear the Photoshop preferences. So we're going to open up Photoshop. And once you do that, I'm going to have you hold down Control Shift Alt on a PC or Command Option Shift on a Mac. So I just missed it, so I'm going to try it again. So I'm going to get my fingers ready. So Control Alt Shift. I put it right over top of there, over top of the keys, and then I'm going to simply open it and immediately hold them down. And you'll see delete the Photoshop settings and just say yes. Now open up the Photoshop. And everything's set back to the default. And that's fine and dandy. I'm just going to minimize it for now, and then I'm going to double click on the horse team because that's the file we're going to work on first. And Bridge should open up on the wrong window for me, but that's fine. Move it over here, and the first thing you're going to notice is it's crooked, so we're going to fix that first. So I'm going to right click on the actual thumbnail down here. So there's different tabs up here. Most likely yours is probably set to Essentials here. You just simply click on one of these. I'm going to right click on it. I'm going to open it with Adobe Photoshop. By default, if you double click on it, it should open up Photoshop. And here's the image. So because it's crooked, I want to crop it. So I'm going to go to the crop tool, which is the fifth one down, or hit the C key. And then on here, I'm going to pull down to width, height, and resolution because I want to control everything. And I'm going to type in 6.5 IN for inches. And then I want 5 IN. And then the last one is pixels per inch, and I'm going to do 150. So see this straighten icon right here? We're going to use this one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to simply click on one side and click on the other, and I'm going to make sure that I am straight on the photo. So what this does is it takes this line and then straightens the image. Then I'm just going to simply grab these and change them. So you'll see, because I've already set the height, the width, and the resolution, when I grab the corners, the aspect ratio doesn't change, and then you simply crop in and get the edge of the photo out. And then once I'm done, I can either hit the check mark here or just double click in the middle. So once that's done, I'm going to go to File, Save As, and I'm going to save it just because in case something happens. So I'm going to call it Horse Team Working. And it's a JPEG. And I'm going to just save it right back into the folder that I had the original. And I'm going to make sure that this is high is good. I'm just going to do baseline. I don't need progressive, and I'm just going to hit OK. All right, so now that this is cropped, we're going to adjust it. So I'm going to click on the adjustments panel. And I'm going to select levels. And you'll see that it gives you a little histogram up here. And it gives you the dark point, the middle point, and the highlight, or the white point. So I'm going to set the highlight. So see the three droppers here? This will actually set the areas inside the photo. So I'm going to click on the high point, or the white point, and I'm going to select above the horse up here. And you'll see that the photo just got a little bit brighter. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set a black point. Now I don't want to actually select it using the eyedropper. I'm going to move the actual point on the histogram. What you want to do is you want to drag it to where the data starts moving. So right about here. I'm going to back it off just a hair. I'm going to set it at about 33. Now you'll notice that the middle tones are a little bit dark. So I'm just going to take the middle tone slider and I'm going to slide it toward the dark point. So that what it's doing is it's moving the values of where everything is. So if you move it to the dark point, the middle point gets closer to the dark point, that middle point would make everything brighter because it's the midpoint of the photo. I'm going to actually set the point at 146 because I've done this before. So that looks good right there for me. And it's hard for me to read it because the arrow gets in the way when I'm sliding it back and forth. So now that we're done toning that, you'll notice down in the layers palette here, there's a background and then there is a layer above it that has the adjustment layer. If you click on the eye, you can make the adjustment go away. So this is the original and this is with it toned. So because I like this, I'm going to just simply flatten this so that there's no longer an adjustment layer above it. So I'm just going to click on the hamburger menu on the layer panel, and I'm going to flatten image. So that makes that permanent. There's another way of doing it also. If you click on layer and go down to flatten layer or flatten image, it's on the very bottom here. But because I've done it, it's grayed out. There's lots of ways of doing things in Photoshop. And then we're just going to simply file, save. It's going to save over the image again, that working image that we already saved. So the next step we're going to do is we're going to use a spot healing brush. So the spot healing brush quickly removes blemishes and other imperfections. It samples the pixel around the retouched area and makes a match of the texture, lighting, transparency, and shaded of the sampled pixels to the pixels that are being healed. The spot healing brush is excellent for retouching blemishes in portraits, but it also works nicely when there's a uniform appearance near the areas you want to retouch. So I'm going to zoom in just a hair by hitting Control plus on the PC or Command plus on the Mac. Then I'm going to hold the Shift or the space bar down, and you'll notice it turns into a hand, your cursor, and then I can drag and look closely at things. So I want to fix these blemishes here and this crack down the middle of this old glass plate negative. So I'm going to select the healing brush, which is down below the eyedropper tool. The spot healing brush is the top one most likely. And I'm just going to simply go down the edge of it. And then lift up and it automatically fixes it. And it actually does a pretty good job in the horse. So then I'm going to hold the space bar down and move it up so I can move the photo up. And I'm just going to simply highlight the rest of this spot. And I'm going to just remove all this writing down here as well. And then you can see somebody taped something onto this negative. You can see the tape marks. Here's a hair. Here's another tape mark. As I'm moving around, you can see some mess on the bottom here. Remove all the imperfections. And again, I'm moving around the photo by using the space bar, and then the cursor turns into a hand and I can move it. So you can see there's a bunch of scratches in here and a bunch of dots. And these dots are dust. Once I'm done, I'm going to just hit Control 0, or on a Mac, Command 0, and it brings up the photo in the full screen. And that looks a lot better. The crack is gone, all the imperfections are gone. You could spend hours on this if you want. It's as picky as you want it to be. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to remove a gentleman out of the image. And we're going to use the patch tool. The patch tool removes large unwanted elements from an image. You can use the content aware patch to remove an unrelated person from the right side of the photo. In content aware mode, the patch creates a nearly seamless blending with nearby content. So I'm going to right click on the spot healing tool brush and select the patch tool. Up in the top options bar, I'm going to select content aware, and I'm going to keep the structure as 4. So the structure determines how closely the patch reflects existing patterns. You can choose 1 to 7, 1 allowing the loosest adherence to the source structure, and 10 requiring the strictest. So just drag the patch tool around this subject. And then position the pointer within the area you've just selected. And you notice that the cursor has changed. And just drag the selection to the left. And you'll see that the horse is there. You drag it to the right. And you can kind of match the background. And then let go when you're done. So you'll see the selection changes to the matched area around it. The man's gone. Where he stood is a section of fence, and the fence may be a little uneven. So I'm going to go to select, deselect, and although the effect is impressive, it's not quite perfect. We're going to touch it up with the clone stamp tool. So the clone stamp tool uses pixels from one area of the image that you select, and then it moves them or copies them to another area that you've selected. So we'll select the clone stamp tool, which is right here, and click on it. If I double click on it, so then I'm going to click on the brush size. And I'm going to make the brush size 30 pixels with a hardness of 0. So you can see the brushes here. So then on a PC, I'm going to hold the Alt key down. On a Mac, you hold the Option key down, and it becomes a little target. This is what's targeting. I'm going to target this area, but I want to clone to this area. And if you see inside the cursor, it's going to show you what it's cloning. So as I move this around, you'll see it's cloning from one side to the other. See, that looks very similar. But you have to watch yourself because the eye is really good at detecting a pattern. So if you make everything the same, it's going to detect that pattern and something's not going to look quite right. So now I'm going to get rid of this. See how these are similar? It's a pattern to me. I'm going to simply Alt click here and move here, and I'm going to remove the log sticking up. Now, if I really want to get fancy, I could simply take this post and put it here. But I'm worried a little bit because this post is already cloned here. If I put another one here, the eye might detect that this post and this post and this post, the new posts, all look the same. So I'm going to also Alt click here and just make sure that the fence looks a little bit more natural. Same with here. Click here. Keep clicking there. Yep, so see now it looks like it's a continuation. It looks a lot better. So once we're done with that, we'll go under File and Save again. So the last task you might want to do when retouching a photo is sharpen the image. There are several ways to sharpen an image in Photoshop, but Smart Sharpen Filter gives you the most control. Because sharpening can emphasize artifacts, you'll remove those first. So zoom into about 400%. So here's the percentage down here. So we're going to zoom in. I'm going to hit Control plus. On a Mac it's Command plus, and I'm going to simply hit to us about 400% right here is 400%. We're going to go to Filter, Sharpen, Smart Sharpen. And we're going to remove Gaussian blur. And we're going to drag the amount to 100. I'm just simply going to type it in there. The radius to 0.1 and reduce noise to 20%. So the radius determines the value of the number of pixels surrounding the edge of the pixels that affect the sharpening. So the higher resolution, the higher the radius setting should be. This is not very high resolution. You can see some of the artifacting. So I'm going to leave it down to point or 1.0. So you can adjust it to your liking, but once you're satisfied, simply hit OK. And we're going to choose File, Save As. We're going to rename it to Horse Team Final. Hit Save, hit OK, and you're going to turn this image in for the lesson. So I'm going to close this, and then I'm going to have you do the same thing, the same effects with gate, the old gate number 1. So I'm going to right click and open this real quick. I want you to crop it, tone it, like we just did with the horse photo. Remove the wrinkle and anything else you think that needs correction. Feel free to do it. And if you want to remove a woman, you can. It's completely up to you. But then once you're done with that, I want you to save that as Old Gate Final and turn that in with the lesson as well. So there should be 2 images you're turning in for this lesson, the horse photo and the gate photo. So I hope you enjoyed this lesson. Talk to you next week.